So the soda process is located from two different selectable menus. The first one is the resident drop-down. So you go to Residents, Statement of Deposit, or from the manager's home screen, you can go to Open Sodas. Also notice that these alerts automatically pop up where your mouse cursor is hovering over. So if we click on one of those Statement of Deposits, it'll take you to the home page called the Statement of Deposit Management Account. Within here, you can see a few different things. You can see preliminary sodas, open sodas, and revised sodas. There's also a new category called final sodas as well. So preliminary sodas are sodas that begin starting out with putting in the notice to vacate or setting up your transfer. Open sodas are ones that need to be currently worked on. Revised are revised ones that haven't been finalized. And all the ones that have been committed or finalized are existing under final sodas. There's a few different search features. The first one is to sort by days left to complete. You can see days left to complete. If you're an administrator, you can toggle between multiple properties. Select soda start date, so you can do a date range if you need. Include final sodas and include transfer sodas. So many different avenues to go down. Also, you have this type, so you can select either applicant or resident, and you can sort by the individual unit. There's an add applicant, so this is how you go in and actually start working on applicant sodas, and then it queues them to that particular screen. So if you navigate away from here, they'll exist in the Statement of Deposit home screen for you. You also have this print, which basically prints this page for you. So if you have a team meeting, some type of discussion, maybe you need to pull it over to your drawer where you're keeping all your move outs and kind of just double check things. It's a handy report for that. There's this print walkthrough list. So if you wanted to see the walkthrough information, you could print that as well. It's basically recording this information here. You can see some similarities. It's keeping track of the name, property, building, unit, type, status. You can see that this one's being modified. Soda start date, vacate date. It calculates those based on your regional configuration. Forwarding address, walkthrough if it's been done, damages if they've been recorded. Violations, this is an area that we'll talk about, however we're not currently using. And then accounts receivable. You can also get details on the history. These new history functionalities allow you to kind of drill down a little bit and see the breadcrumb trail of what has been happening. If we go into actually one of these accounts, so we'll go ahead and go into Barbara's account, you can see all the information that's been collected on the SODA abstract screen. At the top, you're still going to see your basic information as part of the SODA. It does give you an alert section, so you can see open charges, open security deposit, credits. So a really nice feature is this alert section that's sprinkled throughout the SODA process. You have your ledger inquiry and your print SODA. From here, you can see if any forwarding address information has been captured, walkthrough and damages have been captured. Lease violation, again, this isn't configured. However, we'll just kind of talk about what its intent was. You can see your balances, so deposits, credits, charges, and what the system has currently. These two hyperlinks down here, attachments and history, navigate you to these two tabs. So the attachment tab, this is something that we will be heavily researching for usage and deployment. Its intended use is if you click on that, you can go to attach, you can find a file. We'll use my student walkthrough form here, for example. Your description and comments. And you can see that information in here and the date it was done, so that's really helpful information, as well as actually pulling up that attachment. So very handy area. History tab is the same thing as we're looking at. It gives you that breadcrumb trail as well, so you can go through and see what's going on as part of the process. Next one is the forwarding address. So when you come through here, this is where you're going to start entering your forwarding address. A couple things is, even though it has the ability to toggle between residents and enter different forwarding addresses, we're still going to follow the Carmel standard, where you're going to enter one person and you can put the next person right next to them. This will print out on the check or any type of collections paperwork, so it's important that we're actually typing all those residents in. You do have 2 lines, so if you need more room, they expanded room on here for you. Address is down here. And phone number. Also, you've probably noticed is this international button. We are not going to be using this functionality at the time, but this is its intended use. Okay, once you finish the forwarding address, then hit save. Notice on the abstract screen it updates, so you can see everything that's going on in one snapshot. Walkthrough, this is intended to let you track the scheduling completion and any damages you're recording as part of the walkthrough process. So for example, let's say that our walkthrough was scheduled the same as the vacate date. It was completed that date too, and now I'm going to be the @ symbol. If there's any relevant notes as part of that walkthrough, and then any damages occurred as part of that walkthrough. So damages could be cleaning, could be the damage charge code, any of that kind of stuff. You can type relevant descriptions in here, and then the amount. Alright, you can add and delete stuff from here too. Once that's been completed, go ahead and hit save. You can go ahead and print this if you want. Give that just a second to work. See all that neat stuff that I entered in there? Pretty cool. And then once this is set the way that you want it, you're going to check Final, Save, and Commit to AR. Once you've checked Final and Commit to AR, you can't re-enter any information on this page. Makes sense because you only do one final walkthrough. Okay, it's done, and it moves to the AR tab. Before we go through this tab, let's talk about the next one in line, which is the Lease Violations tab. Its intended use was to go through and calculate insufficient notice fees, as you can see here, early termination, and accelerated rent. This is not something that's been currently set up. However, that's its intended use. AR is kind of where I do basically all my accounting work. We still want to follow the same processes of doing everything in a batch if it happened for a while they lived there, and everything in the SODA that we want them to see as part of the move-out process. including the walkthrough stuff. So from here you have two different ways to do it. You can do automatic allocations or manual allocations. Automatic allocations basically uses the built-in formula in MRI that says apply everything alphabetically, rent last, and CON or concession can only apply to the rent charge code. So if I hit auto apply, notice how quick that is. Everything gets eaten up, I have no money left, but there's still a bill left. So it's a balanced due soda. You can also use the manual allocation to go in and back stuff out. So for example, and you can also say, I want this charge going to, this credit going to this charge. So you can manually do it as well. Lots of options, very quick and easy, completely up to you. I'm going to go ahead and just let everything automatically allocate. Makes life nice. If you need any notes that need to be recorded as part of the soda, you can put them in here. These notes will just be housed in the soda, they're not going to print out. Okay, everything looks good. Anything that's a credit, if it's applied to a charge, you're not able to, when we come up to it, reverse that transaction back out because that's considered a credit applied. There is an area you can add that credit back in or add that charge back in. However, keep that in mind if you have a charge and a credit, basically what you're doing is doing a credit apply. If it's a deposit, you do have the option with a deposit of reversing that back out in order to reconfigure that soda either for a refund or to apply it to a different charge. Alright, so I have everything set on here the way that I want it. I'm going to hit save, complete allocations, and commit. Now once I've committed, notice how this reverse transaction button becomes available. Makes sense because you shouldn't be going into this reverse transaction until that soda has been finalized. Okay, final process of the soda, you're going to want to go into statement of deposit, choose detail, whatever the appropriate notes are. Since this is a balanced deal, I'm going to choose those. Go ahead and print. And you can see on this actual soda process just how legible this is. So it's very nice and clean. Important information, reoccurring charges, deposits and interest, charges, credits, write-offs, and forfeits. And in the bottom, the recap, this is the total charges. I took the deposit out, put it over here. I took the credit out, put it over here. You owe us this much back. Very simple. Let me go ahead and print the summary too, just so you can see a quick example of that. And you can see in here. So again, real nice, real clean, very simple. For the soda printout, so sending up to either AP or in-house collections, we're going to want to use the detail. Okay. Now if I go into reverse transactions, you can see all that information there. Just like I said, you can't reverse out any credits applied, but you can reverse out deposits applied. If it was a refund soda, we know we never want to reverse a refund. The only exception to that rule would be is if you can contact your AP accountant or support and confirm that that invoice has been deleted and not sent out. That would be the only exception. So let's go ahead and reverse this applied, just so we can see a nice example here. Back to AR. make any adjustments you need. Maybe instead of a balance due soda, I got pictures mixed up or something like that, so they should actually be getting a 1 cent refund. So you can go through and make these adjust off charges. Also in here, be careful because it defaults the credit type. However, for some properties there's bad debt and then write-offs below it as well. That is the intent, that you want to write these charges off. That's where you could use it. However, if that's not the intent, make sure that you're leaving it defaulted to credit. Okay, those are gone. I have 1 cent left over. We're going to go ahead and do an auto apply. Save, complete allocation, commit. So notice my 1, 2, 3, save, complete allocation, commit. All right, you're going to reprint that soda. This is a refund comments now. And just showing you amount refunded. Again, very straightforward, very easy to read, clean, nice, gets rid of all those kind of clunky credit applies and stuff like that. And we'll reverse this. Again, we don't want to do that unless we can confirm that the invoice is deleted. Also, another really good side note is if you're refunding a refund, so you refunded some money, for whatever reason you're going to refund additional money, so you're writing off some type of charge or adjusting off the charge, it will update that invoice for you as long as it's within that accounting period and the check or the invoice has not been scheduled for release. So it will update that invoice for you. If it's not going to update that invoice, you have to physically go in and create it just like we did in previous versions. So we'll see that coming up towards the end of how to create a manual invoice. Again, MRI will prompt you saying that you have to manually create it. One last thing as part of the SODA process in here is when you go into the AR tab, these blue hyperlinks allow you to make the adjustments from here as well. So if for some reason you needed to go in and add a credit or a charge, you could do it straight from here too. So, pretty neat. To add a charge to, let's say, APP, maybe $1. Auto apply. 1, 2, 3. Again, you can reprint your soda. And then notice how it didn't prompt me to create a manual invoice or anything like that, because when we reverse that refund out, it backed that invoice out. All right. Pretty cool. And again, the history tab is just a great tool to figure out what's going on and what happened, when and by whom. All right, let's look at another example. So if we look at one of our applicant sodas, I really enjoy this part is it actually blocks you from areas that you shouldn't be using. It makes sense for an applicant soda that you wouldn't be doing a walkthrough. You wouldn't be looking at lease violations, reverse transactions, because the soda hasn't even been completed yet. Also, it's important to note too is if there's not a deposit or credit on there, it's just a charge, that's just something you can adjust off in a batch. So we want to do applicant sodas when we're either A, keeping money, or B, refunding money. You can also check up here, let's see what that credit's for. Looks like it's PPO because I paid a check. And it was a credit card payment of $40. So, just guessing, but we probably just need to charge the $40 in order for something to apply to it. Every situation could be a little bit different, but based on the preliminary information, I can see everything that was on there, and then maybe just the $40. So, whatever the situation might be, it could always change. Again, we're in training mode, so this information is not real anyway, but you can look into it and kind of see what's going on. Okay, you would put in the forwarding address just like we talked about. Don't forget, you're going to want to put in all the people's names that the check should be going to. AR, you go in and you either add the charge and apply it, or we refund it, whatever the situation applies. Save, complete, commit. So applicant sodas are pretty straightforward, very simple. Just makes sense, again, that you're not going to be doing walkthrough of these violations. And since this has never been committed, reverse transactions wouldn't apply. Okay, let's go in and find a finalized statement. And I'm just going to go back in time a little bit just so we get some info here in training mode. And you can see all these ones final. Go to Barbara Bush, and then go in and again make any changes necessary. So very straightforward. And again, these are just charge codes I'm making up, not necessarily the ones you're going to be using. And commit anything and complete anything that you need to. So again, very straightforward. All right, so we were foreshadowing a little bit how preliminary sodas work. So when you go in here and you actually see ones that are in the preliminary mode, how are those actually populating in there? So whenever you go in and you put in a notice to vacate or start entering a transfer information, before that person moves out, they are going to be put into the preliminary status. So let's just see a couple examples here. Again, your counting's down here. So starting to collect forwarding information, starting to collect walkthrough information. Now a lot of times you're going to have this information, so it's a good idea to start entering it because it comes as part of the notice to vacate. Hopefully this should trigger you as well, as if you do receive a notice to vacate, these are questions that we want to ask. And then moves them to the preliminary status. Same idea when you're entering a notice to vacate. I'm sorry, a transfer. Is this button right here is what is queuing it to ask for that forwarding address and preliminary soda information. So that's really just the difference in it. Okay, so there's some additional tools as well that we want to do and think about. Now that everything is kind of residing under one screen, so we're doing all our revives in the same spot, we're doing all our applicant sodas and adding them to here in the same spot, we're doing all our resident preliminaries in the same spot, all are open in the same spot, everything resides in here, and then when you go into these actual sodas, they all look the same as well. So a couple real helpful things is the check-in, check-out condition form. So using this as part of their check-in condition for most Carmel, unless you have a different check-in, check-out form. So when they move in, they go in and they say, this is the condition I moved in. And then they say this is, and then you say this is the condition they moved out in the relative charges. So that's kind of the point behind it, as well as kind of listing some of the information in there. As we move forward in our more digitized future here, you can see, for example, this would be a great thing to throw in the attachments. Another one is the credit collections preparation checklist. A lot of these are just housed right on the internet or intranet. We'll navigate there and just kind of show you some of the resources that you have as well. But you can see them on there. So for example, the document checklist, important for California to keep in mind, anything that goes to legal or has legal fees associated goes through Kimball, and they have their own checklist. Check-in, check-out condition report. They're going to want the original plus one copy. So if you're writing on it, I would strongly suggest making a copy of the original and then writing on the copy, then transposing it to the original, especially if this is kind of the first time of going through it. NWP or any utility bills, they're going to want statement of deposit, so that printout, notice to vacate, any relevant invoices, a disk of pictures, so you can just burn a disk and send it up. That way you're not trying to email too large of files or having to be requested these images as part of the collections process. Lease agreement, no procedures, no policies, so just a lease agreement, rental applications, and any relevant correspondence. I always like to do the legal or fiduciary test to make sure that it makes sense. If there was no issue with damages due to pets, it's probably not important to include the pet agreement. If they gave improper notice to vacate, it would be a good idea to include the notice to vacate. So, just kind of looking at it from that standpoint, legal or financial relevance. Renewal letter, that's another really good one to think about too. This would be great if they were on any type of month-to-month. That way you have an official document showing what the month-to-month rate was. The credit collections department will send out all the paperwork, so you don't need to send them anything. Same thing with AP. When you send them up that accounts payable printout from MRI, they will send that with a check and any other relevant stuff as part of the AP process. So again, you're not sending anything to the resident that goes through Carmel's AP or collections department. If there's anything with a depreciated life on it or a lifespan on it, for example, like carpet, they would just like a note on it letting them know what the actual age of that product is. If there's any IHC accounts, those will be determined by the in-house collections department, so they'll write their own off. Everywhere else in the country, if you have your own 3-digit coding system in front of the last name for the person to indicate that they are in the collections process, that's something you would determine regionally. Any damages that you're doing, it's really important that you're taking photos of them and using that picture documentation form, indicating to the person that's looking at the picture who took them, when, and what apartment it was. So that's on the move out cost worksheet. It's real simple and easy. Sometimes people actually laminate that too and just use a dry erase marker in it. And then also I've seen ticky tack they put on the back of it. It's just so they can stick it on a wall or something like that. So it's not very cumbersome. It's really easy. It's just verifying that that photo is taken by the person saying, yes, I took this of this apartment on this date. So if you received any monies, just direct them to the collections department. You can send them up there. They collect everything and then send out a once monthly wire for everyone to post back in there, so they're taking care of the accounting piece. And then if any residents contact you, go ahead and direct them to the credit collections department if they're IHC related. Please take advantage of that service. That's what they're there for, so you can just direct them straight there. So one little handy area that we made, and this is a constant evolving process, is the move out cost worksheet. It is on the intranet, so basically what it's doing is it's creating a detail invoice with options of prorating. So for example, obviously you would fill all this out, but we'll just go very simplistic on it. Let's say that I moved out on 1/15/2013. Blue is for vendor, light orange is for in-house. So let's say we had a bill from our vendor for repainting that apartment for maybe $1,000, and my move-in date was, I don't know, let's go with 1/15/2012. Let's say it was a year ago. And again, for $1,000, it just prorates it for you based on that half-life for that person. So kind of cool. It does it to the exact day, so it looks at all 365 days. It doesn't round to 30 days every month and just distribute it. It looks at every single day in the month, so it gives you that exact amount, which I think is pretty neat. Also, you can look at it from in-house stuff. So if you're saying, what the work was done, what the move-in date was, life, these are all adjustable fields, by the way, too. So you can see how many hours it took, what the labor weight was, and again, calculates it out for you. If it does have a prorated life associated with it, it will prorate those exactly by the day. Same idea down here, and again, these are all adjustable. You're going to put in replacement cost, last replaced, and it calculates it for you. There are fields up here where it's just more of talking about cleaning and miscellaneous, so these aren't necessarily prorated lives, however, they would be part of the invoice process. Now, if you actually get any vendor invoices, or you have printouts from ops showing how much a gallon of paint costs, those are appropriate things to basically include with it. And then it puts it in there saying how much it is and puts in your invoice information for you. So again, real clean, simple, and straightforward. There is instructions in here too that kind of tell you how it goes through it. Also, this particular one for California, we're talking about Civil Code 1950.5. As we know, California changes all the time, so as those things change, we can update these to any specifications. And then it also says anything over $125. I would strongly suggest doing this for all of them in case you need to go back and do a revision or whatever. You already have all that information listed in there. We did also include the picture documentation form, so if you need it for whatever reason, you can just print it straight from here. You can create your own as well, but these are the three main things that we need. All right, let's go ahead and pull up the intranet and talk about the different locales of your resources. I went to the straight URL directory, so intranet.carmelpartners.net. However, you can navigate away or to it from our Carmel Partners page as well. Okay, so resources, if you do this drop down, residential services, a couple different areas. We'll just take California for example. So you can see stuff that's important, and this is going to be important stuff as part of the SODA process. So notice of vacates, maybe applicant holding agreements, move out cost worksheet. So again, a lot of really good things through here, and many of them can relate to the actual SODA process as well. Let's look at national forms. See in here, again, additional really helpful items, all in a one-stop shop. Also, there's another one that's called your chart of accounts. So if you're looking it up and you're trying to figure out which account should be charged to, the charge codes, you can see them from there. You can also see how those charge codes tie back to the GLs. So for example, you can see CLN, DMG, DPT, all tie back to 442. So this is an area you definitely want to make sure that you're utilizing if you're looking for certain things. This is a great area for that. Ops is another great resource. You're going to want to go through and make sure that you're documenting and tracking items. Therefore, if you never have a invoice from a vendor, you can estimate it. Nationally, we really want to do the 7-day mark of getting sodas done. So once a week, get all your sodas done. That'll help us out nationally, so nobody goes over the threshold limit, and then also gives the rest of services like the credit collections department, AP, stuff like that, time to actually send all that out. So really important. Make sure we get those done in 7 days. So let me pull up another document here for you guys. Let's see here. There we go. And this is something that support emails out once a month, and we're probably used to it a lot more now too. But towards the bottom, so if I just navigate there by going towards the bottom, in here, this is the area I was talking about where I'm saying put the 3-digit code in front of the last name. If it's IHC, they do it. You don't have to do anything with it. But other regions in here, so KTS for California, if it's going to them. That way, if we do any type of reporting on that or anyone searching your system, they can clearly see why these people have open balances on their account because they're actually in our legal process. So really good to make sure that we're actually doing so. All right, last few things. So we went through the entire soda process. One really important thing, and this was something that perhaps didn't get thought about earlier, but the transfer sodas. So if there's ever a transfer set up, and there might not be one in this particular module because of the amount of residents that we have built into the training environment, but if you ever have any transfer sodas, when you're actually doing that transfer, it's important that you are including those in there to make sure that they're getting done as well. So when you set up a transfer, it automatically schedules a move in and a move out. So it's basically doing that for you at the same time. All right, well that's just about everything I have for the soda process. Thank you so much for joining, and have a great afternoon.